Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and today we're going to have a look at the GFS, the GEM, the ECMWF, along with the GFS ensembles, and then we'll have a look at the potential for some snow this weekend, quite widespread snow actually, and then we'll look at the weather warnings for the next few days and the live radar for snow and rain across Scotland. So we'll start going through the GFS run, and it does look like it will be turning a lot colder as we head into February. We've been seeing hints of that as we've moved through the last few days. However, the models are starting to really show that the cold potential really is actually there, and it is looking like we will be pulling in sort of a northerly or easterly flow come the start of February. How cold it gets is still uncertain, and how long it lasts, again, is very uncertain, but it is looking more and more likely that we will be seeing some cold weather. And now we've just got to really look at longevity and severity of that. So we'll run through the GFS. You can see a lot of low pressure systems moving about. And as we head into Friday, you can see a big area of low pressure moving in, quite cold air to our north and our northeast, and as that bumps into that cold air, it collides sort of over the Midlands, heading towards East Anglia. Where we see that divide, it will change readily from rain to snow. And where we do see that snow, we could see some significant snow, and there's already a yellow warning out for that, and I'll have a look at that towards the end of the video. Further southwest, it will be rain, primarily, quite a lot of rain as well. There is, in fact, a yellow warning for rain as well. So it's going to be very interesting this weekend. Some areas could see a lot of rain and flooding. Other areas could see an absolute dumping of snow. There will be some areas very disappointed, and there'll be some areas very surprised. That's what it's looking like really now, like a sort of an outcast situation. It'll be very difficult to forecast where that divide is going to be. As we move through, into Sunday, another area of low pressure runs in, and again that's blocked out by the cold air, and that could again provide more snow. That one does look like a bit more of a southerly track at the moment, so it might not be bringing too much snow further northwards. So that's really one to watch at the moment. Definitely Saturday looking interesting. Sunday less so much, but there's still time to change. As we run through, low pressure continues coming off the Atlantic, and this sort of starts to set up our cold patch, as after this area of low pressure moves southwards into Europe and towards Spain, we start to pull in a bit of an easterly wind. Now the easterly wind initially is not particularly cold, it's actually quite mild coming off the continent. However, higher pressure is building in behind, and we start to draw the air from Scandinavia, and it goes quite cold, drawing in pretty bitty cold air into Europe. We get into the sort of -7, -8 degrees, 850 HPA, which is cold enough for snow, and then we've got an area of low pressure trying to run into that. That could provide a big snow event. Behind that, we build in high pressure, potentially building a Greenland high, and it actually starts to bring in some bitterly cold easterly winds, and we could be seeing quite a lot of snow with that. Again, it's towards the end of the time frame, but we're seeing it prop up in a lot of the models now, a lot of the ensemble members, so it's looking like this sort of pattern is likely to set up. As we head towards the end of the model, the blocking maintains its strength toward Greenland, gets even stronger, and we really start to bring in some bitterly cold air from the northeast. Like really, really cold air is starting to drift its way. The whole of the British Isles is pretty much within the -10 line, would be ice days, and we could be seeing sort of conditions or cold conditions to the extent of the beasts from the east, that sort of cold. Whether we see the amount of snow with that is still uncertain, as we can't really see the low-level sort of features within the flow. It doesn't look like it's a proper, like, bitterly cold easterly wind, so we might not be seeing that many of those sort of convective showers, but with more low pressure around, we could be seeing more frontal snow with this, and more sort of occluded fronts and stuff like that. So it's really one to watch with that. Again, it's far out, so we can't really make too many, we can't really reconfirm this is going to happen or not. Just this sort of pattern is looking more likely. And if we have a look at the GEMs as well, it's a very similar pattern up towards this weekend. We'll run through this quickly, and as you can see, it's a very similar pattern with a sort of a low pressure, but cold to the north, potentially providing some snow over this weekend. Before next week it turns milder, before high pressure builds in behind, and we start to pull in a bitterly cold easterly wind towards day 10, and the high pressure has the GM has proper high pressure blocking towards Iceland, Greenland, pulling in a bitterly cold northeasterly wind, very similar to the GFS, and by day 10 both models are very, very cold. and potentially quite snowy as well. We'll have a look at the ECMWF as well, and it's looking like a very similar pattern as well. And then that area of low pressure swings through the country, turns the wind into sort of a slack easterly before strengthening. And at this point, the air is quite cold to our north, but very mild into France. That could create quite a strong temperature gradient there. There probably will be quite a active weather front across there, and that could provide some frontal snow where that bumps into the bitterly cold air. That'd be very interesting. You see, getting up to 10 or 15 degrees towards sort of Spain, Italy, and then around -10 for central parts of the UK, sort of Netherlands, Belgium area. So there could be a big weather front across there, and that'll be something very interesting to watch. Now, although the main three models haven't all gone for the same exact pattern, they're all very similar patterns, with high pressure to our north and our west providing sort of easterly or north to northeasterly sort of flow. So they're all showing this very similar pattern. So it's looking more and more likely we'll be seeing cold weather. And again, as I repeatedly say, how severe it is and how long it is really quite uncertain at the moment. If I look at the GFS ensembles and precipitation for London, you can see quite mild at the moment before we see that drop off this weekend, and that allows the potential for some snowfall. Beyond that, it rises up again to around average as low pressure comes in off the Atlantic, again going quite unsettled, but around average and quite mild before we start to see that gradual drop off as those northeasterly and easterly winds start picking up. And we see by around the 6th, 7th of February, the average 850 HPA is around -7, with many ensemble members going down to -10 and below, even some in the longer term going down to -15, and even this one ensemble member is dipping down almost to -20, which would be almost record cold for 850 HPA. Bitterly cold. It does have a bit of a pickup towards the end of the run, but it remains below average, and again, it's pretty normal to see a colder spell finishing at the end of the ensembles, simply because the sort of GFS and its ensembles like to break out of a blocking pattern, as a blocking pattern is against sort of the normal, so it's more biased towards a normal towards the end. So it does look like it is trending milder towards the end or back to normal, but I suspect that might be premature, and that's really one we have to watch for. But again, even in the longer term, the GFS operational run's going bitterly cold, as along with some other ensemble members as well. It is generally going a bit drier, but it's not going fully dry, not eliminating all precipitation spikes, so low pressure will be close by, but not rattling through the country like we're having over the next week or so. So that could still provide some snow potential with that. And if we have a look at the snow image, you can see the potential for some frontal snowfall this weekend. Before we see a lot of frequent and some quite big snow, new snow depth spikes, showing the potential we could be seeing some snow, especially around 5th, 6th of February as the cold air arrives. That could bring sort of a transitional rain to snow event, or a complete snow event as that moves in, as it looking like if that bitterly cold air does come through, the temperature gradient just itself will likely provide maybe convective showers off the North Sea, or even some frontal snowfall with that. Next, we'll have a look at the prospects for snow this weekend. We'll rattle through the GFS, the GEM, and the ICON models. So if we run through, you can see a lot of snow to the north at the moment, with quite significant snowfall over the Scottish hills and mountains, and that remains over the next couple of days, so big totals cropping up there. More rain further south, it's going to be quite mild in the south until cold air starts to dig its way southwards through sort of Friday afternoon into the evening, and as we wake up on Saturday morning, it digs in even more and potentially turns this weather front to snow along its leading edge. At the moment, it's looking like Wales and the Midlands, parts of East Anglia are looking the best on this GFS run, but it's not. I can't rule out anywhere really north of the M4, so sort of London across to sort of Bristol area could be seeing snow. Again, I wouldn't suspect anywhere further south than that, but definitely M4 northwards could be seeing snow. It could just stay as all rain, or it could widely turn to snow. And this one really to watch is going to be very marginal, as it's just really a battle between very mild air and very cold air. Wherever we do see the snow, it is likely to be heavy and persistent. And as you can see, as it moves away, the snow line does drop further south as well as more colder air digs in, so that's very interesting to see. And we could be seeing another snowfall event. Third consecutive weekend, we could be seeing quite a big snowfall event for parts of England. Beyond that, we maintain a few snow showers further north and east before another frontal system comes in. But as I said, it doesn't move as much into the UK as it's more southerly tracking, so a bit of snow on the leading edge of that. But it doesn't look like it's amounting to too much, except perhaps maybe Wales and parts of western England where it might pep up a little bit. We'll now run through to the GEM run, see what the GEM is forecasting. If we have a look, very significant snowfall. Just skipped along by accident there. Very significant snowfall over Scotland at the moment. This is 3 a.m. this morning, so it's a few hours behind us. This is the midnight run. But as we run through, continued snow in the north, especially over Scotland. More rain overnight before colder air starts to dig further southwards through Friday. Frontal snowfall arrives. GM going a bit further north, but it's initially, but it does turn widespread through early Saturday morning, almost becoming totally snow, especially north of the M4 line, maybe even parts of Kent perhaps seeing some snow, East Anglia, Midlands getting up sort of in the northwest. Big snowfall, and we could be seeing some big totals as that lasts through most of the day. So yeah, very interesting to see with that. And then another weather front moves in on Sunday. Actually moves further north, not as heavy, but again more snow totting up into what we see on Saturday. So that's very interesting to see indeed. Now we have a look at the icon model, see where it goes along with the GFS and the GM. Click that again. Sorry. And as we run through, very significant snowfall over Scottish mountains, heavy rain through Friday. Clears away for sunshine and showers, potentially quite heavy showers, but snow still in the north. Cold air starts to dig in overnight, and through Saturday the icon really isn't showing up the snow that much. The weather front moves much further north and sort of stalls further north towards northern England, so the snow is primarily over northern England, over the hills, and before it does start to sink a bit southwards as it clears. As we move through Sunday, weather front hardly gets in at all. So icon model very interesting indeed with how it's positioning the snow and rain band. I suspect perhaps it might be a little bit off, considering both the GE and the GFS have it substantially further southwards. And I've seen other models as well on Twitter and snapshots on Twitter of the snow band being much further southwards. So, I mean, the icon could be right, but at the moment the consensus I think is more towards the GFS GM scenario. Just where that snow line is still quite uncertain. One caveat with potential for snow is that it's going to be very mild on Friday. So the ground is going to be quite mild. The ground temperature and sort of air temperature at low levels is going to be above freezing. So any snow that does fall, it will not readily settle. It will take a bit of evaporative cooling, and probably won't initially settle on roads and pathways, etc., until you see some very heavy sort of precipitation, which will overcome sort of the freeze level, that will cool down the surfaces sufficiently to get settling snow. So it's not going to be one like we had last weekend, where as soon as the snow fell, it settled immediately. It will be quite wet towards the ground, quite slushy perhaps. And if you do see substantial snow throughout the day, wherever the snow does persist, it will readily settle throughout the day. However, initially perhaps it won't be as sort of beautiful as it was last weekend, where it was complete whiteout and everything turned white within about 15 minutes of the snow starting. Perhaps over hills it may be like that, but to more lower levels where there is still a snow chance, I will say that one caveat is it's likely to be falling onto quite mild surfaces, so I wouldn't expect it to readily accumulate, initially at least. We'll have a look at the weather warnings. So at the moment we got a rain warning for northwestern parts. That's probably combined with Storm Christoph, with still quite high water levels, and we've got probably more rain to come, bringing a likelihood of raising those already high water levels even higher, potentially creating some more flooding. Further north, we've got a snow and rain warning. They're pretty much for the same sort of event. The rain is just simply because it's lowland areas, it's not going to fall as snow, and then the big snow is what we saw in those precipitation charts, and we'll have a look at the live radar in a minute. These weather warnings remain through Friday, and then a yellow warning comes into force as the rain and snow band moves in. As I said, primarily rain in the southwest. Then as we head into Saturday, rain warning remains, and then we see a snow warning where it says potential for 3 to 7 centimetres, perhaps even more. So it's going to be very substantial and heavy precipitation. And where you do see that heavy snow throughout the whole day, you're likely to see quite a lot of accumulations. Again, with my caveat, we're talking about the ground will be quite mild. If you got an hour or two of snow, you would overcome that eventually, and that's why where these areas where it's likely to snow for most of the event is likely to see quite heavy accumulations with that. And then over hills, of course, much more, potentially over 20 centimetres if it moves a bit further northwards. I suspect the snow warning could be expanding, perhaps further eastwards, maybe towards East Anglia, maybe even getting further southwards into sort of the London area as well. As looking at those previous models, it does look like there will be at least perhaps some back edge snow, and probably, if we go by the GFS and the GEM, some more snow further eastwards as well. So it's looking like the snow line will be somewhere in this region. There could perhaps even be an amber warning coming in force with that as well, as it's quite heavy snow with that, and I suspect they may put that in tomorrow afternoon, perhaps, when they know sort of where the snow line is more likely to be, when they've got a better picture of where the heavier precipitation is as well. So we might be seeing that coming tomorrow as well. Lastly, we'll have a look at the updates, the live radar from the Weather Channel. As you can see, a few sort of drizzly showers further south and east, parts of southwest England, parts of northern England, East Anglia, perhaps seeing some drizzly showers. And then we see the big heavy snow and heavy rain towards Scotland. Big accumulations over the hills and the mountains, and then a lot of rain. But again, it's not too unusual really to see heavy snow over the higher ground of Scotland. It's just the last couple of years we've been quite starved for January, especially last year where January snow totals over Scotland were pretty abysmal. We saw more snow in March really. But yeah, nothing too unusual with that, with it heavily snowing, but perhaps with quite heavy precipitation in the next couple of days, we could be seeing some very significant totals totting up for localised areas. You can see more rain is moving into Ireland and Northern Ireland, and that's the rain we're going to be seeing tomorrow, or overnight tonight into tomorrow. So yeah, more heavy rain to come. It's going to be quite saturated ground as well after the snow melt we've had, especially further south and in the Midlands this week. It's going to be quite a lot of saturated ground around again, so perhaps there could be some localised flooding with rain and snow we see over the next couple of days. But anyway, I'll keep you updated on what's happening this weekend with the potential for the snow. Again, it's really one you've got to keep up to date, and make sure you stay up to date with official forecasts from the Met Office with their weather warnings as well, as they'll always look at all the models, and they have more data available to them, so they'll always normally have a better forecast than any amateurs would have. Even though sometimes we think we know a bit more, but we obviously don't. But yeah, stay up to date with the Met Office, and I'll keep updating you on here. Potential for the snow this weekend, as well with the chances of some very cold conditions to return in February. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.